Well, I am doing something unusual for me now. We're actually recording the part 2 video in advance. Last time I asked you to pray about a trip that was coming up, and I just want to tell you that that trip is in a place of very much uncertainty, and so I don't want to in any way ask you to be praying for something that doesn't happen, but we're still working on it, and that would be a flight to Pennsylvania and then a drive back through, stopping at several places, and we'll see what God ends up leading in this situation. It is potentially a wonderful blessing to me, but we will see how things work out with that. We began last time in the message, Refiner's Fire. And it's a tough message. I'm not going to take the time at this point to read through the key verses because I'm going to use another key verse here as we go into part 2 of this message. But I encourage you, if you didn't see it or read it or whatever, go back and read Malachi chapter 3, verses 1 to 3, and Zechariah chapter 13, verse 9. That's where the theme of the idea of refiner's fire comes from. We're going to pick up with Isaiah 48:10. Okay? Isaiah 48:10. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. It still amazes me, the attitude of people that is supposed to be Christians. I think they're Christians. In no way am I in the position to judge their Christianity, and so I'm not saying it for that reason. But people have this attitude that if you're a Christian, everything is going to go wonderful. You're never going to get sick. You're never going to have pain. You're always going to be great. You're always going to have all of the wealth that you need and all of the things that you need. Why don't they read the Bible? Behold, God is speaking here. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. Wow. Actually read the Bible instead of quoting what these absolute phonies are telling you from behind their pulpits, if you want to call them that. I have read several times. One of my favorite devotional books to read, I didn't do it this year, but I did it last year. I very well might do it again next year. It is called Extreme Devotion. And it tells stories of the persecuted and the martyrs for their faith. I've suffered some affliction and certainly some attacks. Usually the attacks on me has come from people within the church. Just this morning, as I was talking to people at breakfast, I told them, I said, I've had some really big rumors told about me. If I actually lived the life that people proclaimed that I did, I would have an interesting life. I don't have an interesting life. I wake up in the morning, go to breakfast, and look forward to going to bed at night. I just don't have an interesting life, but I've faced some attacks and some affliction. I've had my life threatened numerous times in the ministry. I've had people say they were going to kill me and all those kinds of things, but I have never gone through persecution like these ones that are recorded in Extreme Devotion. Some of them are older days. Some of them are more modern days. God may take me home and be merciful to me before I go through that, but if not, let me promise you I will go through that. So will you if we aren't taken home before that happens. I don't know. In America, we have been so secure from that. But the rumblings of what is happening is leading us in that pathway. It is in the furnace of affliction. It's in the furnace of affliction that God calls us. Read your scripture. Don't listen to me. We have these wild-eyed people that, oh boy, I stomp around and I'm over and above everything. We are over and above everything. By the authority of God, not by the authority of ourselves. It's in the furnace of affliction when you stand in front and you say, be it known unto you, O King, whether God delivers us or not. We will not bow to your idol. Oh, Mike, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to submit to all of the authorities and give all of our money to the taxes and obey Caesar. That's what the Bible tells us. Again, totally misinterpreted. If that was true, then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was in absolute rebellion against God for standing up to Nebuchadnezzar and saying to him, I won't bow to your idol. There's a time coming, American church, that we're going to have to make a choice. Whether we are following God or following this godless nation. And you better make up your mind, because we're going into the furnace of affliction. And most of us are not prepared to face it. I'm working on another message. I don't want to cheat on that message and mess that up, but I'm working on another message right now that is asking myself the question, am I willing to go into the lion's den? Not kicking and screaming and yelling and hollering, but trusting God. Am I willing to go into the fiery furnace? Am I willing to pick up my cross and say, go ahead and crucify me? I will not bow to your idol, O King. It is in the furnace of affliction that God calls us. Now, again, sometimes I am totally misrepresented in what I'm saying. Sometimes I listen to the message and I shake my head and think, how did they get that out of what I said? One of the things that comes to my mind is this lunacy that is still being said, that I said COVID was a fake. And I never, ever said that, ever. I said what we were doing and what they were using to control us was a fake. But people hear what they want to hear, and I can't do anything different about that. A guy that I have a lot of respect for, Dr. Strickland, that was a tremendous Nazarene evangelist. He wrote a book called I Preached It Straight and They Heard It Crooked. And boy, does that ever fit in things? And I've come to the realization, I can't fix it if you hear it crooked. I can't do anything about that. But if you think that I have said that money and possessions are bad, I haven't said that. Why is it bad? It is the love of money that is the root of all evil. The church quits ministering because the money isn't there. Let me quickly say that. I'm getting off on more rabbit trails, and then I'm going to have to do a part 3. What happens in board meetings in churches across the country? People come in with visions and ideas and excitement, and the first thing that you read in the board meeting is the treasurer's report. As soon as you read the treasurer's report, everybody's saying, yeah, we can't do anything. We spend all of our time worrying over money. We do that not only in the church, but in our own personal situations. We spend all kinds of time worrying over money. What do? We sit and mull over it and fuss over it and on and on and on. And that is the love of money. That is allowing money to possess us. And folks, I'll tell you, I wish that it wasn't true. I wish that it didn't take money to run ministry, but it does. It takes money to run ministry. I had a person years ago that told me, well, I thought that the utility companies and the post office just gave things to the church. I cracked up laughing. I was like, he was serious. I was like, no, bud. In fact, most of them raise the prices on the church and call it a business and raise the prices and charge you more. It takes money to run ministry. It does. And I wish that wasn't true. But we can't run ministry based on money. We should be on our faces saying, God, what do we do that fits into your purpose in all of this? That's exactly what the Warrior Sword is doing right now. Lord, what is it that you want us to be doing? And then we come to you and we do our best to try to do what you tell us, and we depend upon you because you own the cattle on 1,000 hills. That's where we run into this problem. Go back to last week's video. That's where we run into this problem with the attitude that people preach Malachi 3:18-21, I think it is, or 22. They use that as a purpose in their ministry. The more I can gain, the more I can have. God gave me a principle years ago. I'm getting way off. I am going to have to do a part 3, I guess. I'm getting way off. God gave me a principle as I was driving away from Arizona and heading to Iowa without a job, with no ability to make any income, with nothing. And he said, I'm going to use the manna principle on you and your ministry. I will provide for you each day what you need, but don't try to possess more, because I won't let you do it. And I have possessed more, and he has taken it away. Well, God doesn't take anything. Yeah. Talk to Job. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. But what's the key? Blessed be the name of the Lord. I've never gone hungry. It's been years since then, and I've never gone hungry. Sometimes I had to eat bologna. Sometimes, but I had a friend that was in the ministry years ago that said, when you're in ministry, sometimes you get the chicken and sometimes you get the feathers. And that's where it is, bub. But God always has seen to it. It actually takes a long time for God to break us. That's why it's so hard to go through it. We don't get broken very easily, but broken we must be. There is bad broken. There is broken that happens because of circumstances that is bad broken. But what we're talking about is good broken. Broken in the hands of the God that uses the refiner's fire in the furnace of affliction to shape us into what it is that he wants us to be. We can be hard to... Can you ever be hard to deal with? I know in my spirit there are times that God just has to put his face in his hands and say, I know that YouTube will decide that's the picture to use for our end screen, because sometimes I just shake my head with that picture. But God puts his face in his hands and says, wow, Mike, But that's okay. Moses was a pain in the neck. You know that? Moses was a pain in the neck. I can't speak. I can't do it. They won't listen. Isaiah said, I am a man of uncircumcised lips. Why would they hear me? Then it changed. Moses went through the refiner's fire. Isaiah went through the refiner's fire as the angel touched his lips with a hot coal off of the altar. Abraham misled several kings, saying that Sarah was not his wife. But he came to the point that God said, I'm not going to put up with these attitudes in you anymore. And God told him, go sacrifice your son Isaac that Abraham loved more than life itself. And God put him through the refiner's fire. David did all kinds of things that he shouldn't have done. But he became a true warrior of God, a man after God's own heart, when God put him through the refiner's fire. And he experienced things that he wasn't guilty for. God even put Jesus Christ in his human body into that fire. What Jesus went through was unthinkable. And God uses that. Yet we don't want to go through the refiner's fire, do we? We want the easy way. Oh God, just keep everything wonderful and safe. When God told me this, and again you'll have to go back to last week's video, when God told me this, and originally it was a separate message to give to my two children, I cried out to him. I was like, wait a minute, I'm their daddy. You're telling me that you're putting my children into the fire, and I'm supposed to be okay with that? No, Lord, I'm not okay with that. It doesn't matter whether I'm okay with that. It doesn't matter whether I'm okay with the fact that I'm in the fire myself. What we want is to sit in our easy chair, read our Bible, put a couple of bucks in the offering plate, and claim that's all I need. But that's not all we need. Gold is actually a very pliable metal. In its purest form, it is very soft and moldable. In its natural form, there are almost always traces of other defective metals. And in order to get rid of these unwanted elements, it has to be refined. What makes it a great value when you hold a pure gold bar is because it has been refined. The purification process is to extract those other metals and remove impurities so that the end product is pure gold. This makes it more valuable than almost anything else on our planet. By ounce, it is extremely valuable. There are several ways actually to refine gold, but the best way is to put it through fire to burn out the impurities. You might compare, and I certainly compare, mixed gold with my present life and your present life. We all have some elements that in our spirit, you know immediately as I say this to you, so do I. So don't think I'm pointing my finger at you. I know it immediately as well. We know those things in our lives that are not pleasing to God and that need to be extracted. The refinement process for the extraction represents the trials and tribulations in our lives. Count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations and tribulations, for the trying of your faith worketh patience. And when patience has had her perfect work, you will be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Wanting nothing. God, it's okay if you just give me manna. I'm not going to whine about that. Do I whine sometimes? God, help me. That's that impurity. But extract that out of me. This scripture, it is in that furnace, in that struggle, the trying of our faith. Because that's the only way that you gain patience. That's the only way that you gain close relationship with God. It is my hope that when we are put into these situations, instead of fussing and complaining, we ask God, what is it that you are wanting to teach me or work out of me? I want you to do it. God, I want you to do it. The trouble and tribulation, we're just at the beginning of it, folks. In these last days, and people argue with me whether it's the last days. Read the book. Read what Jesus said was going to be the signs of his coming. We're in the last days, but we're just beginning in this process of what is going on. The shaking that is happening, the judgments that are coming is beyond most people's imagination to understand. But God can use those things to cleanse and burn up all of the impurities in our lives. Because of the fear of these things, many are leaving and contemplating leaving, even leaving America. Those that have not been directly told by God to leave, I have one question for you. Why are you running from the refiner's fire? 1 Peter 1:7 says that the trial of your faith being much more did you say it again? What Peter says, the trial of your faith being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. When Jesus Christ appears, the trying of your faith is going to be found in praise and honor and glory. What do you suppose that Daniel was afraid of when he walked out of the lion's den? What do you suppose that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was intimidated by after the fourth man? Sorry, you couldn't see my hand. After the fourth man, the Son of God, walked into the flames with them. What would you be afraid of? The king says, I'm going to behead you. Go ahead, king. That's why I have mockingly said, and it's coming. It's on its way. Is it going to happen this time? I don't know. But Iran is going to join with Russia and several other nations, and they're going to invade Israel. And that will be the worst mistake that they ever made. But you see, we've got to have an attitude that we recognize it is in the trying of our faith, not in the luxury and the diamond rings on our fingers and the brand new Cadillac and the brand new $1 million homes and all of that. Oh, God doesn't bring pain. Better check again. But God uses these things in our life to test our faith and purify us and make us his bride that is without spot and without wrinkle. When these things begin to happen, it's not because God is abandoning you. It's not because God has turned his back on you. The Father turned away from the Son while the Son hung on the cross, bearing the essence of sin, so that he would never ever have to turn away from you. It's not because God is abandoning you. These things are not happening to you because God doesn't care. He loves you. He desires his best for you. Many of us, and many are going through that now, and many of us will be tortured, probably beyond what we can imagine. I've said that openly for years. If the Lord allows me to continue to live, I will probably die in prison. Oh, Mike, you're just being dramatic. No, I'm not. 'Cause listen to me, O King. I will not bow to your idols. I don't say this arrogantly or lightly. Tie me to the stake and set me on fire like you did so many of the forefathers of the church. And God, give me the strength to, as they did, be talking about you and singing about you while I burn. Jesus said it. They will deliver you up to be persecuted. And many of my brothers and sisters around the world are going through that. See, that's why I wear that on my wrist every day, one with them. And if God doesn't come back before then, but that doesn't mean that gold in its purest form is soft and pliable, and the Lord wants us in that condition so that he can mold us into what he desires us to be. In order to do that, fleshly things, the corruption, the outside mixed metals, the desires of this world must be burned away. I didn't enjoy writing this. I don't enjoy rewriting it and bringing it. I don't want to talk about these things, but my flesh cringes. But we have to be prepared. No matter what happens, keep in mind what we are told in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8. And the Lord, he it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. God is not turning his back on you. God is not sending you into the flames alone. He will go into the flames with you. He may not deliver you away from the flames. You may have to go through the struggles and the tribulation and the persecution. But if you do, God will be with you. What will be your response when trouble and affliction comes? Will you be angry? Take offense at God? Accuse him of child abuse? Or will you say, yes, Lord, I will go into the lion's den. I will go into the flames. An excellent example of what our response should be is actually found in the story of Job. And those of you that have followed me know that that's one of my favorite stories of all. And it is found in the book of Job. He was a blessed man, highly favored of the Lord. In fact, when Satan came running his mouth, Job was the one that God pointed out and said, Consider my servant Job. What a tremendous compliment for God to give. Job, he did. He had everything that a man could ask for. A lot of us in America have experienced that. We've had everything that a person could ask for. Satan went before the Lord and accused Job of only serving God because of his blessings. So the Lord allowed Satan to test Job and afflict him in just terrible ways. The afflictions happened one after another with no room for Job to even process what was happening. Have you ever felt it? Have you ever felt it, my friends? Have you ever felt it, my family, when it was happening so rapid, day after day? I wrote it recently on our page in Facebook. I feel like that I have actually hit the bottom. I got into trouble for saying it that way. What the hell am I doing here? Oh, Mike, if you was really a true Christian minister, you wouldn't talk that way. You come walk a mile in my shoes. I've been with people that had everything that they needed, and they would condemn people that struggled for food. I'll never condemn you for your struggles, because I think it's probably quite likely that at some point in time I've probably struggled in the same ways. God allowed Satan to test Job, and everything that Job had was taken away from him. Want to talk about refiner's fire? I've seen it, folks. I've seen it in these recent days when just a mound of things happened. And I sat saying, God, I wasn't questioning who God was. I would never question who God is. I know who God is. But oh my word, actually read the book of Job instead of just listening to what the preachers tell you. Job was like, what in the world just happened to me? Yes, God, though you slay me, yet will I trust you. But my word, I don't understand what the world you are doing. Have you ever been there? Let me tell you, if you are in the refiner's fire, if you go through the refiner's fire, you are going to feel that. It doesn't mean that you've lost your faith, but your faith is being tried in the furnace of affliction so that God can make you a vessel of praise and of glory and of honor. We'll close it out next time because unfortunately I ran out of time. Next time is probably going to be a much shorter message. I hope that you will tune in. I hope that you are being challenged because we intended to be challenged. But at the same time, I hope that you are realizing if you are in the middle of that furnace, God has not forsaken you. God wants to use you. Thank you for watching.